Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news. We advise you on what you can do about it. Today's topic for discussion is democracy or terrorism. Which one do we choose? This past Thursday, Radio Islam out of South Africa asked me to share some thoughts on a bit of controversy that erupted at Microsoft's 50th anniversary program. Two former Microsoft engineers, both women, were recently fired for disrupting Microsoft's anniversary celebration. Microsoft AI chief Mustafa Suleyman was the first to be interrupted by Ibtihal Abu Saad. Later, Microsoft founder Bill Gates and a panel of executives were interrupted by another engineer by the name of Vinaya Agrawal. Now, it's my understanding that simultaneous to the drama that was playing itself out on the inside, there was also a demonstration outside the building where the event was held. No Azure or Azure, I'm not certain about how this term is pronounced, but it's either no Azure or no Azure for apartheid. This was the slogan for the protests. Azure is the name for Microsoft's cloud technology. Both cloud and AI are facilitating technologies of 21st century warfare. They are facilitating technologies. The technology is used to identify and select targets in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and no doubt other targeted theaters of Israeli instigated warfare. Former Microsoft personnel Abdul Mohammed and Hossam Nasser. Abdul Mohammed and Hossam Nasser were reportedly fired last fall, I believe it was October, for pro-Palestinian action at Microsoft. But Microsoft is not alone. Google and Amazon are also reportedly guilty of providing apartheid Israel with high-level tech support for its crimes against humanity. And given that these are U.S.-based corporations that are well-known and respected in their field, it factors into this examination of the role the U.S. is playing in the genocide in Gaza and in violations of human rights law taking place in other parts of the world. This is a very important issue. With that, today's broadcast is going to focus on the rendition, the kidnapping operation of a young Muslima by the name of Romesa Ozturk. We want to talk about what happened to her because, it was caught on video. And that video has been widely shared. And it it has understandably resulted in outrage throughout the U.S. and abroad. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to share a piece of that video with you now. Let's see the video now before we go to the break, Brother Sadiq.
Yep, we're going to take it right to the camera. Come on, we'll show you everything.
I see some faces here. How do I know this is the police? It's like, hey, looks like it.
Whoever it was that took that video, my goodness, that person, man or woman, deserves a lot of gratitude, and I thank them for what they did, the service that they provided in making that video available, putting a face, an actual face on what took place in the greater Boston area. It's really, really heartbreaking. But and that video and the information that we're going to share after the break underscores how important it is for citizens in this country of ours, of mine called America, to really reflect again on the concept or the doctrine or the idea of what constitutes patriotism, what constitutes healthy democracy, what constitutes us as citizens doing the best we possibly can to help our country wherever we live, whether it's the United States, Britain, France, Sweden, no matter where it is, the global South, countries in Africa and Asia, Central and South America, wherever we are, what constitutes a healthy patriotism? What constitutes us, again, helping our country to live up to the better part of itself for the, in a way that is in the interest of us all? We'll delve into this a bit more through an examination of this particular case involving this young lady from Turkey after the break. Let's go to a commercial break, Brother Sadiq.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the TIB Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the TIB Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust TIB Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
This Ramadan, make a conscious choice, sip for change, and support Palestine Drinks Africa. With every can, you help end the genocide and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Choose between our original or sugar-free options available in the case of 24. Every sip is a step towards justice. Every purchase, a powerful message of unity and support for the Palestinian cause. Contact 082-888-1440 or 082-7739-556 today and be part of the change. Palestine Drinks Africa. Sip for change. Liberty for everyone.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Welcome back. Our focus for today is on democracy or terrorism. Which one do we choose? Now, that little piece of video that you just saw is a graphic example of how far the better of the two Americas has really gone off the rails. To add to this, the substance of today's broadcast is going to be a ProPublica report that I'm going to share with you. And whoever the author is, or authors, if there's more than one, again, they also deserve a tremendous amount of gratitude for this eye-opening, thought-provoking report. What happened to that young sister, this student at Tufts University, it was an act of terrorism. That was an act of domestic terrorism against a student whose only crime was co-authoring an editorial in the student newspaper at her university, co-authoring with a number of others. And for this, she was targeted for a rendition operation, which you could see is actually a very terroristic organization. She did not know who these masked people were and what the end result of her being snatched up the way that she was in broad daylight, what the end of that was going to be. Let me share with you the contents of this eye-opening report. It's titled American Rendition, Romesa Ozturk's Journey from PhD Scholar to Trump Target Languishing in a Louisiana Cell. It reads, with a line of cars waiting behind them at the train station, The two women hugged tightly as they said goodbye at the end of a spring break that hadn't turned out to be the relaxing vacation they'd imagined. The girls' trip had transformed into endless conversations about security precautions as one of the friends, 30-year-old Turkish national Romeysa Öztürk, grew increasingly worried she would become a target of the Trump administration's deportation campaign. Öztürk, a former Fulbright scholar in a doctoral program at Tufts University, was stunned to find out in early March that she had been targeted by a pro-Israel group that highlighted an op-ed she co-wrote last year, criticizing the school's response to the war in Gaza. Her concern deepened days later with the detention of former Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil, a permanent resident the government is trying to deport over his role in pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus. By the time of Öztürk's spring break trip on March 15th, she was consumed with anxiety, said her friend, E., an Arab-American academic on the East Coast who asked that we withhold her name and other identifying details for security reasons. During their reunion in E's hometown, the first time they'd been together since the summer, the friends looked up Know Your Rights tutorials and discussed whether Öztürk should cut short her doctoral program. They spent their last day together filling out intake forms for legal aid groups just in case. Right up until their last minutes together at the train station, they wrestled with how cautious Öztürk should be when she returned to Massachusetts. Öztürk wondered if she should avoid communal dinners, a feature of Muslim social life during the holy month of Ramadan. I told her to keep going out, to be with her community. I wanted her to live her life, E recalled, her voice breaking. And then she got abducted in broad daylight. By now, much of the country has seen the footage of Öztürk's capture. And it wasn't a capture. She was kidnapped. It wasn't a capture. Language is very important. That's the only critique I have for this piece. It wasn't a capture. It was, as they described it in their opening caption, it was a rendition. It was a kidnapping. It was an act of terrorism. Surveillance video from March 25th shows her walking to dinner in Somerville, Massachusetts, near the Tufts campus, chatting on the phone with her mother when she is swarmed by 6 masked plainclothes officers. Öztürk screams. Within 3 minutes, she's bundled into an unmarked car and whisked away. A jarring scene that showed the nation what President Donald Trump's deportation campaign looks like on the street level. Federal agents ambushing a Muslim woman who co-wrote an op-ed in a college newspaper. The footage drew worldwide outrage and turned Öztürk into a powerful symbol of the Department of Homeland Security dragnet. Surveillance video of Romeysa Öztürk's capture is truly stunning. It's stunning. To piece together what happened since then, ProPublica examined court filings and interviewed attorneys and Ozturk's close friend, who regularly speaks to her in detention. What emerges is a more intimate picture of Ozturk and how a child development researcher charged with no crime ended up in a crowded cell in Louisiana. The interviews and court records also provide a glimpse into a sprawling, opaque apparatus designed to deport the maximum number of people with minimum accountability. Her lawyers described it as the story of a Trump-era rendition, a callback to the post-9/11 practice of federal agents grabbing Muslim suspects off the street and taking them to locations known for harsh conditions and shoddy oversight. Ozturk is among nearly 1,000 students, it's over that number now, whose visas have been revoked, according to a tally by the Association of International Educators. And she is among several students and professors who have been detained. Her detention was exceptional, immigration attorneys said, because it was caught on camera. What's scarier, they say, is how fast the removals happen and how little is known about them. Homeland Security spokespeople did not respond to requests for comment. The video of Ozturk's arrest surfaced because Boston area activists had set up a hotline for locals to report interactions with immigration and customs enforcement. The call that came in about Ozturk reported a kidnapping, said Fatima Ahmed of the Muslim Justice League, part of the advocacy network that obtained the footage. What broke me was her screaming and knowing that the same thing had just happened to almost 400 people in the Boston area that week, or the week before, she said, referring to a recent 6-day ICE operation. After her arrest, Ozturk was held by ICE incommunicado for nearly 24 hours, her attorney said, during which time she suffered the first of 4 asthma attacks. Only later, through court filings and conversations with Ozturk, her attorneys learned that in the course of a single night, she was taken from Massachusetts to New Hampshire and then Vermont, where the next morning she was loaded into a plane and flown to an ICE outpost in Alexandria, Louisiana. Her last stop was a detention center in Basel, about an hour away, where she remains, one of 24 women in a damp, mouse-infested cell built to hold 14, according to court rulings. ICE officials say in court documents they couldn't find a bed for Ozturk in New England, adding that out-of-state transfers are routinely conducted after arrest due to operational necessity, quote unquote. Immigration attorneys say that late-night hopscotch was an ICE tactic to complicate jurisdiction and thwart legal attempts to stop Ozturk's removal. Louisiana and Texas, they say, are favored destinations because the courts there are viewed as friendlier to the Trump administration's MAGA agenda, issuing decisions limiting migrant rights. Quote, it was like a relay race, and she was the baton, Ozturk's attorney Masa Kanbabai said. On March 4th, 2 weeks before their spring break reunion, Ozturk texts her friend E to say she'd been doxxed by Canary Mission, part of an array of shadowy right-wing Jewish groups that are criticized for using cherry-picked statements and distorted context to portray even mild criticism of Israel as anti-Semitism or support for terrorism. For more than a decade, hard-line pro-Israel groups have publicized the names of pro-Palestinian activists, academics, and students, often with scant or dubious evidence to back allegations of anti-Jewish bigotry. The goal, civil liberties advocates say, is to silence protesters through campaigns that have cost targets jobs and led to death threats. On its website, Canary Mission said, excuse me, it is motivated, this is a quote, motivated by a desire to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. It says it investigates individuals and groups across the North American political spectrum, including the far right, far left, and anti-Israel activists, quote unquote. The effort was stepped up during the wave of student protests that erupted in opposition to the war in Gaza. I should say the war on Gaza, the genocide. Subhanallah. Ozturk's entry on the Canary Mission site, posted in February, claims she, quote, engaged in anti-Israel activism in 2024, end quote, citing the op-ed she co-wrote more than a year ago that accused Tufts of ignoring students' calls to divest from companies with ties to Israel over human rights concerns. Quote, I cannot believe how much time people have, Ozturk texted her friend when she saw the post. E responded with an open-mouthed, shocked emoji. The Canary Mission entry, she said, had unlocked a, quote, whole other level of terror, end quote, for Ozturk. It was that feeling of having your privacy be so violated, for people to spend all this time and energy on one op-ed, he said. The op-ed published in the Tufts Daily was signed by 4 authors, including Ozturk, and endorsed by more than 30 other unnamed students and international war crimes investigators, students, period. The language echoed the statements, and this is very important. The language echoed the statements of United Nations officials and international war crimes investigators about the death toll in Gaza, which according to health officials, there has passed 50,000, with about a third of the casualties under 18. Now, we all know it's The death toll is far more than that. Far, far more than that. This was the official death toll that was cited in one of the reports when this article was written. It goes on to say, Ozturk, an advocate for children in communities plagued by violence, was personally heartsick over images of burned and mangled Palestinian children. But she was not a prominent activist or a fixture at campus protests, her friends and attorneys say. Ozturk's attorneys, who are scheduled to appear Monday before a federal judge in Vermont, say the sole basis for revoking her visa appears to be the op-ed highlighted by Canary Mission. Ramzi Qassem, a lawyer representing Ozturk, said pro-Israel groups are providing the administration with lists of targets for its deportation campaign against non-citizen students, protesters. Quote, the sequence of events, he said. Op-ed is op-ed, doxing, and detention. This is the sequence, op-ed, doxing, and detention, quote unquote. Pro-Israel groups, including Canary Mission, have boasted about their influence on the Trump administration's targeting of student protesters. Immigration officials insist that they make their own removal decisions based on a number of factors, including a hard line on criticism of Israel. SubhanAllah. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he has revoked more than 300 student visas, including for Khalil and Ozturk, under the Immigration and Nationality Act, which permits the deportation of non-citizens who are deemed, quote, unquote, adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States. SubhanAllah, man, this is crazy. He went on to say, the Secretary of State, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist who tears up our university campuses. This is what Rubio told a news conference last month in response to a question about Ozturk's detention. He went on to say, quote, every day I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa, end quote. He's a shameful little man. This Secretary of State of ours, a shameful little man. When I say little, I don't mean little in physical stature. He is a little man. A spokesperson said the State Department does not comment on ongoing litigation. In a call with reporters on Thursday, attorney Mark Vander Hout of Khalil's legal team said, the authority Rubio cites was intended for rare occasions involving high-level diplomatic matters, not to be used to go after people for First Amendment protection activity. Surrounded by masked officers on March 25th, Ozturk had no idea who was seizing her or where she was being taken, according to a statement filed on Thursday in federal court. The operatives were dressed in civilian clothes, she wrote. So at first she worried that they were vigilantes spurred by Canary Mission. I had never seen police approach and take somebody away like this, she wrote. I thought they were people who had doxed me, and I was afraid for my safety. Ozturk's statement details her harrowing night being shuttled across New England with little food after a day of fasting for Ramadan. She describes being shackled by her feet and stomach and then driven to different sites for meetings with unidentified men, some in uniform, some not. One group so unsettled her, Ozturk wrote, that she was sure they were going to kill me, quote unquote. At another stop, at another stop, described in the statement as an isolated parking lot. Imagine this. Imagine this. An isolated parking lot. Ozturk repeatedly asked an officer if she was in physical danger. He seemed to feel guilty and said, quote, "We are not monsters." At the last stop in Vermont, Ozturk wrote, she arrived famished and with a lot of motion sickness from all the driving. Officers took her biometric data and a DNA sample. She would stay there for the night in a cell with just a hard bench and a toilet. Officers gained access to her cell phone, she wrote, including personal photos of her without her religious headscarf. During the night, they came to my cell multiple times and asked me questions about wanting to apply for asylum and if I was a member of a terrorist organization, quote unquote. Ozturk wrote, quote, I tried to be helpful and answered their questions, but I was so tired and didn't understand what was happening to me, end quote. Around 4 the next morning, she wrote, she was shackled again in preparation for a trip to the airport. She was told the destination was Louisiana. Her statement to the court recounts the parting words of one of her jailers, quote, I hope we treated you with respect, end quote. SubhanAllah. And you know, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, that is the conscience of that person who was probably a decent human being. That was the conscience of that person expressing himself or him or herself as whether it was a male or female jailer, because they knew, that person knew that she had not been treated with respect, that she was treated in a way that violates the Constitution of the United States, the protections that we are all supposed to have, whether we are citizens or not, according to the Bill of Rights. He or she instinctively knew she had not been treated with respect, and this was a backdoor way of apologizing without apologizing. I hope we treated you with respect, subhanAllah. At nearly every stage of her detention, Ozturk, who takes daily preventative medication for asthma, experienced asthma attacks, which she says are triggered by fumes, mold, or stress. During one attack in Louisiana, Ozturk wrote, a nurse took her temperature and said, "You need to take that thing off your head," before removing her hijab without asking. When Ozturk protested, the nurse told her, "This is for your health." SubhanAllah. By her fourth wheezing episode, where she's trying to catch her breath, she's trying to breathe, Ozturk wrote, she didn't bother to seek attention from her jailers in Louisiana. Why? I didn't feel safe at the medical center. After the portrait Ozturk paints of ICE detention, her statement turns back to her old life, a reminder of how abruptly her world was shifted. From her cell in Louisiana, she described the plans she had in the coming months: completing her dissertation, a conference in Minnesota, students to mentor, a summer class to teach. I want to return to Tufts to resume all of my cherished work, she said. Ozturk and E bonded in 2018 after meeting at a Muslim study group in New York, where they were both attending Columbia University. They were in their 20s then, two bookish cat lovers who were serious about their studies and their faith. They went on nature walks and liked afternoon naps. Old ladies, he said with a laugh. They remained close and took turns visiting after Ozturk left for Tufts and E moved away from the city. Over the years, the pressures of grad school and distance had made their visits less frequent, E said. So they'd been looking forward to their 3-day spring break catch-up. During the visit, E said, the women broke their fast together and visited a mosque for late-night Ramadan prayers. They stopped by a children's library Ozturk wanted to visit. They stayed up late talking, gaming out how to keep Ozturk safe from the Trump administration's crackdown. She said, quote, I think this is going to be the last time I get to visit you, he recalled. I told her, quote, no, you're going to be able to come again. Don't worry. I'm going to come visit you. That all turned out to be wrong. The friends had kept in touch daily after parting at the train station. They exchanged mundane texts and voice notes about doing taxes and eating cookies. He sent Ozturk a photo of the park where they had walked during their visit. Romesa, the trees are starting to bloom, she wrote. They last text on March 25th, a couple of hours before Ozturk was detained on the way to dinner in Somerville. Let's go to a break, brother, and come back on the other side.
Hey, Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bhai, you didn't.
Oh, no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Rendry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Abu Huraira narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the TIB black seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the TIB black seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust TIB Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Welcome back. We are, if you're just joining us, dealing with the topic, democracy or terrorism. This is our focus for today. And which one do we prefer based upon our actions? I've been sharing the contents of a ProPublica report on the Turkish sister that was kidnapped, was renditioned less than a month ago. And this piece, again, it is so thought-provoking. It grabs at your heartstrings, and it forces you to recognize the fact that, as the late J. William Fulbright, one of the most prominent senators during his time in Congress, in the U.S. Senate, noted, there are and have always been two Americas. Getting back to this report, E didn't find out what happened to her friend until the next morning. When she stumbled out of bed before dawn for the early meal Muslims eat before the daily Ramadan fast begins. Sipping her tea, E scrolled through her phone and spotted a message that said, "Have you seen this?" alongside an alert about Ozturk's arrest. Quote, it was like, "Is this real? Am I still asleep?" she recalled. E said the idea of her gentle friend being swept into ICE custody still didn't seem real until later that morning when the video was released and she saw a familiar figure in the same white jacket she'd worn on her visit. Quote, it was utterly nauseating to watch, he said. So horrifying and so heartbreaking to see her have to be so violently taken that way, end quote. 2 days after Ozturk's transfer to Louisiana, E received a call from a strange number that came up on her phone as prison/jail. It was Ozturk, in the first of what would become a regular check-in at random times of the day. In interviews, E showed ProPublica corroborating photos, text messages, and voice notes of her interactions with her friend. Quote, she always starts with, "Is this a good time to talk?" And I'm like, "I've been waiting for this," E said. Some days, Ozturk sounds upbeat. Turkish diplomats, she told E, had delivered her a new hijab. Ozturk found a cookbook and noted a citrus salad recipe she might try someday. She cracked jokes about being too old to climb into a bunk bed every night. In one call, Ozturk expressed relief that she filed her taxes before getting detained. A perfect example, E said, of her overachieving friend's wry sense of humor. She read the detainee handbook 2 times, E said. She said, quote, "I'm trying to be a good detainee," end quote. Other calls are not as easy, E said, adding that she didn't want to divulge specifics out of respect for her friend's privacy. In those harder calls, those harder talks, E said, she wishes she could be there to tell her it'll be okay and give her a hug. Their conversations are sprinkled with reminders that Ozturk's nightmare might not end soon. She asked for help canceling appointments and returning library books. She also in the process of requesting a single paperback per detention regulations. If approved, she wants E to find her a guide for writing children's literature, preferably with exercises she could do from her cell, E said. Her heart ached when Ozturk asked her to make the book a long one. The cause and tasks ease feelings of helplessness, E said, an antidote for the guilt that sneaks up on her when she walks outside on a sunny day. How is it, she said, we're moving forward while my closest friend is rotting away in this place? SubhanAllah. That's the end of that thought-provoking piece by ProPublica. What I want to say in my conclusion to today's broadcast is what happened to our sister Romesa Ozturk is what happened to our sister Dr. Afia Siddiqui years ago, 22 years ago to be exact. The majority, or I should say the major difference between the two, between what happened with Romesa and what happened to Afia, is that in the case of Afia Siddiqui, not only was she kidnapped, but her children were kidnapped as well. And one of those children, the youngest, the baby, 6 months old, died in that kidnapping operation. I should say he was murdered. He was murdered. by the way that she was snatched out of that vehicle with her children, and the way that he ended up being snatched out of her arms and hitting the ground. What happened to this sister, this Turkish sister, just a month ago, is what happened to Afia Siddiqui more than 22 years ago. And it's happened to so many others. It happened to so many others around the time this was happening to Afia, and it continues today, as we see. It continues today. History is repeating itself. The question is, what are we going to do? What is our responsibility? And now I'm talking to my brothers and sisters and friends in America. At the conclusion, at the Constitutional Convention that gave birth to this land called the United States of America, at the conclusion of the convention, one of the elders, of the convention, Benjamin Franklin, was asked by a reporter, if I remember correctly, that piece of history, it was Benjamin Franklin. He was asked by a reporter, what have you wrought with this Constitution? What have you wrought? And his response was, a republic, if you can keep it. Think about that. A republic is supposed to be theoretically the highest form of representative government. Franklin, one of the founding fathers of this experiment in democracy, said in response to that question, a republic if you can keep it. And now the republic is perhaps at greater risk than it ever was, certainly in recent memory. I want to end today's broadcast by thanking those of you who joined us live, and I want to ask those of you, and thank you in advance, to please share this. Share this. This is a thought-provoking description of what happened to this Muslim woman, this innocent Muslim woman who strikes me as having the same kind of spirit as Afia. She wants to work with children. She wants to help children. Her focus is in being a teacher, an educator. This is who Afia was, is. We should all be outraged by what happened to her and what is happening to so many others. We should be outraged and we should be concerned. And that outrage and that concern should cause us to want to do whatever we can to push back before being able to push back is too late. And I'm particularly speaking to my brothers and sisters who are citizens of this country. I can understand our brothers and sisters who are not citizens, even if you're legal residents with a green card. I can understand you being reluctant to push back, given all that we're seeing. But there is no excuse for citizens. As Dr. King so ably stated, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's happening to these folk today. If we don't stop it, it can happen to us tomorrow. We have an obligation to do what we can before it's too late. Before it's too late. Before it's too late. So brothers and sisters, step up. My Muslim brethren, step up. We really have no excuse because our book is clear, crystal clear on this. Stand firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it be against yourselves, your parents, or your kin, or whether it be against rich or poor, for Allah can best protect both. Do not follow the lusts of your heart, lest you swerve. And if you distort justice or decline to do justice, know that Allah is ever mindful, ever aware of what you do. This is in our book, the Quran, a translation of the meaning of that verse. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, when you see an evil action, you must change it with your hand. If you cannot do so, with your tongue, the jihad of the tongue. If you cannot do so, detest it within your heart, and that is the weakest degree of faith. The Prophet also said, by the one in whose hand rests my soul, you must surely enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Otherwise, it is expected that Allah will send against you a punishment, and you will supplicate him, but your supplications will not be answered. It is crystal clear we have an obligation to stand up and push back against injustice. If we don't, our silence makes us complicit. So let's step up to the challenge. Let's help our sister. Let's help all of our sisters that are being targeted. Let's help all of our brothers that are being targeted. Let's help all of our fellow citizens that are being targeted in various kinds of ways for speaking up, for speaking truth to power. The time is now. Brothers and sisters, the time is now. And for those flag wavers among us, for those super patriots among us, the question for you is, how do you define patriotism? How do you define democracy? And which one do you choose today? Democracy or state-sponsored terrorism? This is the question before us. Now I'm going to end. We had another video, but we'll save that video, Brother Saalakh, to another time. We're at the end of the broadcast. I'll close out as we normally do, thanking those of you who joined us today and those who will share this very important information with others. As we normally do, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wal asr, innal insana lafi kusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihat, wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr, which means, in the translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.